All right, there's a new Biden news story that is sweeping the nation in terms of its shocking values. No one predicted or saw this coming. Democratic Party officials and White House staffers were well aware of former President Biden's frailties ahead of his choice to end his ill fated reelection bid last summer, according to exclusive excerpts from a new book released to The Hill. The excerpts from Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House by Hill senior political correspondent Amy Parnas and NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen reveals extensive steps to cover up the signs of Biden's aging and contingency plans if Biden chose to step aside or even died in office. It shows what we had to do to prepare with the unique circumstances we had, which was an 80-plus-year-old president who was running, one party official who was involved in the secret discussion, said according to Parnas and Allen. Concerns around Biden's age dominated much of his reelection campaign from its launch in April 2023 to its end in July 2024 following a disastrous debate performance. Party administration officials repeatedly downplayed these worries, insisting Biden was fully capable of winning and serving another 4 years in office. Despite Biden's occasional public stumbles, they sought to assure the public that behind closed doors, Biden remained sharp and fully in command. But behind closed doors, officials expressed their own anxieties about Biden's abilities well before he took the stage with then candidate Donald Trump last June. Publicly, Democrats scoffed at Republican claims that Biden wasn't up to the job, the authors wrote, but privately, some of them worried all along that they were putting too much stock in an old man who, at best, had long since lost his fastball. Parnas and Allen reported that Representative Eric Swalwell, a 2020 presidential candidate who faced off against Biden in the primary debate stage, first became concerned about Biden's cognitive abilities in June 2023 when they spoke at the annual White House picnic for members of Congress. Swalwell had not been invited to the White House often like most members of Congress, but when Biden and Swalwell came face to face, Biden didn't immediately recognize the congressman, according to the book. Swalwell needed to note personal details to remind Biden of who he is. At the G7 summit in Italy preceding the debate, Biden was tired when he arrived, and it's most of the sessions. Biden told Parnas and Allen. To cover up the physical signs of Biden's aging, a makeup artist met with him in the morning when he traveled. The artist who covered up aging signs before Zoom calls with his aides. Biden consistently made these makeup appointments, but he sometimes canceled the briefings that were to follow. So he would go and get his face painted to look younger for a meeting, and then be like, all right, well, I got my face painted, but to hell with the meeting. After the debate with Trump, Biden needed fluorescent tape to guide him through a fundraiser at New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy's house, and needed a teleprompter to speak to just a small group of people, but he still frequently trailed off his remarks. Biden's closest aides remained behind the president's plan to run for re-election. Parnas and Allen reported White House counselor Steve Ricchetti and Mike Donilon, an operative who had worked on Biden's messaging for decades, were both 100% in, according to one Biden ally. First Lady Jill Biden was 1,000% behind it. At the end of the day, I don't think anyone in that inner circle was presenting the president any contrary advice that this thing is not going to be easy, or maybe this is not the best thing for the Democratic Party, they said. One friend of Biden and former President Trump called the choice for Biden to seek re-election the original sin of the 2024 election, putting the blame on the president's family and close aides for not advising him to forego a re-election bid. Even with Biden's allies' steadfast plans started to come together behind the scenes in 2023 to prepare for the event that another candidate needed to take over from Biden should he not seek re-election or die. An aide to former Vice President Kamala Harris carried a spreadsheet of Republican federal judges Trump hadn't appointed, so if Harris needs to be sworn in on short notice, it could be from someone seen as more credible to Republicans. The aides didn't inform Harris of the spreadsheet before he left her camp in January 2023, but he told his colleagues he should be notified immediately if something happens to Biden because he had a communication strategy prepared. After the debate, Harris needed to figure out what she would say about the performance. Harris didn't find the campaign's talking points of Biden having a slow start, stronger finish to be credible. Instead, she focused on honing on the contrast between Biden and Trump. It was a very slow start. That's obvious to anyone. I'm not going to debate that point, Harris told CNN's Anderson Cooper. I'm talking about the choice in November. I'm talking about one of the most important elections of our collective lifetime. I hate when they would say that. It's so stupid because it's just an overused line. But yeah, those are the revelations. They're not really shocking to any one of us who paid attention to Biden's public speeches and appearances. You could tell that he was declining even before he took office, right? During the 2020 cycle, people were pointing out that he couldn't remember things. Um, And, I know a lot of Democrats voted for him at that time out of this idea that only he could defeat Trump. But it's funny how, like, insecure, like, basically they just delayed the inevitable. If you really think about it, they were able to successfully stop a Trump reelection bid for a short time to then have the same thing happen, or the same version of what they didn't want to have happen in 2020 happen in 2024, which is really interesting. This is just another one of those stories where, like, if I ever, were not even a president, a congressman, a senator, governor, if I have any of these elected positions, I would hope my family, well, let me cancel that one, but I would hope my staff would care enough about my well-being if I'm, in cognitive decline, can't remember where I am, right, to say, hey, you're not okay. You need to make, we don't think you should try to run for another term or run for more, years in office, because look at your current condition. But for these aides, for the Biden family, it seems like it was all about power. It was all about how can we stay in the White House and keep ourselves relevant. And I mean, it's really egregious to think about that this is the extent of love that you see from the people who've been around him the longest. Because some of these staffers had been with Biden since he was vice president, since he was senator. So it's, a long time. And it's really disturbing that they allowed a man who people knew had some kind of mental acuity issues for years to just sit there each year, right, having those issues. But let's try covering it up. Oh, he's got to run for re-election. Okay, I guess we'll do this until he gets on, on the shows up for this debate and completely doesn't even know what he's talking about. It's sad to watch. Like, as someone who's not a Biden fan, just a person that's dealt with elderly people and loss of memory, to stick one of them up there and have them be publicly made fun of because they honestly cannot remember things really is disgraceful on the part of any of the Democrats that were involved in that. But again, we've talked before, politics in the modern era is not about helping people. It's not about actually, bringing about some societal change to better a majority of whoever your constituents are. It is used as a springboard, usually by some unelected people, to make themselves more wealthy, more well-known. And that's what you saw with these Biden staffers. We could tell him not to run for another term. We could tell him, hey, you're declining and we all can see it. But let's just sit inside the sinking ship and only want to start backing out when regular people notice it. So these aren't really revelations to me, but they're interesting to think about in the sense of getting more details. Like, I didn't know that, Biden did the makeup thing, but it's one of those stories where whenever they start to, like, write biographies of Biden's presidency and, just life in general, you'll get these types of reveals will be, more cited and talked about